Okay, so as I've already indicated in the chat area, okay, the questions have already been put up on times. So I suggest you start answering them because we don't have only 1 hour. So can you start doing it straight away? And then once you finish, you want to check, put your answer in the chat area. Share your answers in the chat area. So I hope you can see my screen. I'm sharing my screen now. Okay, so the first question is, accountants frequently face the dilemma of whether to safeguard the public interest or to put their own self-interest first. So how should accountants act to ensure that they always retain their integrity and authority? So how can accountants best serve the public interest? Okay, so if you were paying attention during my lecture last week, okay, you would have remembered what I spoke about, that whenever there is this conflict between self-interest and public interest, accountants should always safeguard the public interest, not their own self-interest. Okay, so this is the dilemma, the conflict that they face. So how should accountants act to ensure that they always retain the integrity and authority? So to answer this, you could be good if you can give some examples. Okay, how can they always act to retain their integrity and authority, and how can they best serve the public interest? So please share your answers in the chat area for me to check and make any comments. Okay, so start doing. We don't have much time. Maybe we can just split the questions since there are so many questions and we only have 1 hour. So we can give to different people to answer the questions. Okay. So are there any volunteers? We have got, in total, I think we've got 7. So if one student or any student willing to answer one question, then we can finish by 1 hour, in 1 hour. So please indicate in the chat area which question you want to answer. I prefer you to volunteer. Shailene Ko. Serve wider public interest by providing unbiased information or advice. Okay. So like I said, for you to make this answer better, you can give some examples. Okay. So just imagine that you are practicing as an accountant. So how are you going to practice this principle, public interest? Now this is taken, we have taken this from the lecture slides. Okay, so there's there's nothing wrong with that, but to strengthen your answer, will be better if you give some examples. Follow this with some examples, okay, Shilin? Can you hear me? Shilin Lo Kai Yi? Lo Kai Yi. Shilin Lo Kai Yi. Okay. So like I said, can you elaborate further on the answer that you shared in the chat area by giving some examples? Okay. So while Shirin is answering that one, can I have some volunteers for the next question, which is, okay, you can refer to the, I'm sharing the screen now. The framework for responsible decision making includes governance, accountability, and ethics. Now, if you recall last week's lecture, we had three concurrent, it's not circle, it's more like an oblong, okay? Three concurrent oblongs, and the area where the three oblongs intersect, okay, that is the what you call the optimum, can make the most balanced decisions. Okay, so we have three aspects: governance, accountability, ethics. So this was represented, if you refer to the slides, lecture slides, in the form of three oblong, and where they intersect, that common area, that is where we will make balanced decisions. Okay, you can refer to the lecture slides, which I put up on times as well. Okay. Okay, the third question is, accountants are recommended to maintain a posture of enlightened self-interest without losing sight of the public interest. How should accountants behave to ensure they follow this advice? Okay, so for all these questions, okay, if you just for example cut and paste from the lecture slides, okay, so that would not be the best answer. Okay, so always try to give examples. Support your answer with examples so that you are telling the examiner that you understand what it's all about and you didn't just cut and paste from the slides, that you understand. So that's why we have the tutorial. You have to ask. If you don't understand, you have to ask. And unfortunately, this semester we only have 1 hour. So it's up to you to make the most of it. To make the most of the tutorial, you have to participate and ask questions. We don't have time during lecture. I'm rushing through. I have only 1 hour. So this is why I ask you, and I'm reminding you, since this is the first tutorial, come prepared and then ask questions. If you don't want to unmute and speak up, then you can post your questions in the chat area. Okay, you can post your questions in the chat area. So I have given you 7 questions. Okay, so please go and look at them and answer them and share your answer in the chat area so that I can check it now. Tutorial class. So I just want to tell you that if you just cut and paste from the slides, you will, not to say that you won't pass, but you will not get a good mark. Okay, so you need to strengthen your answer. Remember, keep in mind, by giving examples to show the examiner that you understand what it's all about. By the way, I just want to check, are you able to hear me or not? Can you just indicate in chat area whether you can hear me or not, or I'm just talking to myself? Okay, thank you. I just wanted to know, because sometimes we got internet issue and then suddenly it's lagging and things like that. So if you from time to time just indicate to me in the chat area by maybe just putting up a thumbs up sign or whatever, then I know that I'm being heard. Okay, we already 11 minutes gone, so we just stuck in the first question. I think we really need to start moving. So serve the wider public interest by providing unbiased information or advice. So for example, if you're working in a company, okay, you're working in a company, and then you are the what you call the chief accountant, chief accountant or financial controller, and then one day the client come and see you and has a private chat with you and says that can you do this and so on, can you just temper the figures, adjust the figures, because I don't want to pay so much tax this year, I want to lessen my tax burden, can you help me? So now you have a conflict here, you have a conflict of interest. If you are thinking about your self-interest, then you will go with what the client says to you, because of course he will tip you, he will reward you. But if you're thinking about the public interest, then you will have to tell him or her in a firm but polite manner, I'm sorry, I can't accommodate your request, because the tax collection goes to the Inland Revenue Board, and then the government of Malaysia uses their revenue for development of the country. That's public interest. That's what I'm giving an example to you. Hopefully you can get the picture. Okay, so here you have the dilemma, a conflict. Do I want to think about myself, or do I want to think about the public interest? So how should you behave? I think based my first lecture, you should be very clear by now. I hope I've communicated to you at all times. I repeat, at all times, public interest come first. Serve the wider public interest by providing unbiased information or advice. Okay, Shilin has answered that. But I told you just now, to strengthen this answer in assessment, in exam, in quiz or whatever, you got to give an example. So I've just given you an example where you are approached by a client to have to fiddle the books, to adjust the figures, because he or she wants to pay less tax. And then he or she says that, oh, okay, you cooperate with me, I will give you some commission. Okay, so if you cooperate with me, I'll give you some commission. So what are you going to do? This is where we call an ethical dilemma. Do I follow him, or do I do what is in the best public interest? So if you follow this advice here, serve the public interest, then you will have to tell him or her, I'm sorry, I cannot accommodate your request, because what you're asking me to do is illegal, against the law. Okay, now this is what I mean by public interest versus self-interest. Okay, are you clear? Hopefully I have already explained to you the difference between public interest and self-interest. So as far as our ECG module is concerned, the advice is very clear. Always must serve the public interest first and not your self-interest. Okay, so I think I want to move on. Okay, if I spend all the time on question 1, we won't finish, right? So you please do what you have to do. Like I said, you can copy from the lecture slides, but make sure you augment meaning strengthen your answer by giving examples. Okay, So now I will move to the second question. I'm sharing my screen, so you should be able to see it. Okay. Okay, the second question. The framework for responsible ethical decision making includes governance, accountability, ethics. So if you go back to the lecture slides and see, these are three oblongs. The way they intersect, that is where they will make the balanced decisions. Okay, so meaning to say that, okay, I will discuss the answer for this, okay, because I want to move on. So how can they ensure that they make balanced decisions? So they need to keep in mind these three aspects. These three aspects: governance aspect, accountability aspect, ethics aspect. So in the lecture slides, if you go back and refer, you have three oblongs, and then the area where they intersect, the common area. Okay, so that is how they will make the balanced decision. Balance meaning they take into consideration governance, accountability, ethics. Okay, so that is how they can make balanced decision. So meaning anytime the company wants to make a decision, they need to consider from the aspect of governance, from the aspect of accountability, and from the aspect of ethics. Okay, so by doing so, companies can make sure that they always make balanced decision. The balance is opposite of balance is one-sided. Decision is not one-sided, it is balance. It benefits all parties. Balance means benefits all parties. Okay, so governance, accountability, ethics. So how can corporations ensure that they continue to always make balanced decisions? Okay, so are there any questions? I'm going to go back to the chat area. Are there any questions? Okay, now I see some of you coming to the class late. Okay, maybe in future I will share the link for attendance at the beginning of the class just to make sure that you come on time. Okay, so I'll let you know first. Yes, Nicholas, the answer to your question is better always to give an example. So do you have an example, Nicholas? Maybe you have an example? Okay, never mind. You can think about it. Okay, think about it. And then later on, if not today, maybe in future class, you can share your answer so that we can discuss it together. Okay, remember I've said this again, saying it again, our tutorial is only 1 hour once a week, so try to get the maximum. Okay, so in order to get the maximum, it's always better if you come prepared with the answers so that we can quickly discuss and go through. Okay, otherwise we will waste a lot of time waiting for you to submit the answer and for me to check. Okay, so that will be better. Okay, I'm reminding again, this SAM, starting this SAM, only 1 hour tutorial, so we have to make the most of the limited time. So it'd be better if you come prepared with the answer, and then we can, those who have done can share the answer in the chat area, and then I can check and make any comments and suggestions. Okay, so that's how I will be proceeding. So since today is the first tutorial, never mind. Okay, so now I will move on to the next question. So next question. Accountants are recommended to maintain a posture of enlightened self-interest without losing sight of the public interest. This is the recommendation from the professional body. So in this case, we are using the slides from the CPA Australia. CPA Australia is the professional body based in Melbourne. Okay. So their advice is that we should adopt a posture of enlightened self-interest. Remember, there are two extremes, two extremes. Self-interest is one extreme, public interest is the other extreme. So the advice is we try to go for enlightened self-interest meaning that we don't just solely focus on the public interest, nor do we focus solely on the self-interest. We try to strike a balance. Okay, so this is called enlightened self-interest. Sometimes they call it as a win-win situation, win-win scenario. Win-win situation or win-win scenario. So the next question is asking, how should accountants behave to ensure that they follow this advice? So again, this one, if you can give an example. Okay, if you give an example, so then you will be telling the examiner that you understand this concept. What concept am I talking about? Enlightened self-interest. Okay, so I'll give you some time to think about it. So basically, this concept says that don't go for either extreme, solely on self-interest, nor go solely on public interest. Strike a balance. Strike a balance. So how should accountants behave to ensure that they follow this advice? So if you want to answer this, as I have just explained earlier, the best thing is for you to give an example. Okay, give some example. Possible one, at least one, if not more than one. So how are you going to put this in practice? Enlighten self-interest. Any volunteers? I see that there are 26 attending this tutorial. Any volunteers? So my question is, how are you going to practice this? Enlighten self-interest. Meaning that we don't look solely from self-interest and we don't look solely from public interest. We try to strike a balance. So how can we do this in practice? So just now I gave you an example. For those who are listening and paying attention, I gave an example just now. So now you can use that same example and apply this concept of enlightened self-interest. I just want to see whether you have any ideas or not. Just want to see whether you have any ideas or not. Have ownership and integrity towards your job, the company, and feel motivated to perform well in your current position. Kwa Zianzhen. Kwa Zianzhen. Can you unmute and speak up?
Yes, sir.
Are you sorry lah, I'm not sure, is this a boy or a girl?
I'm a guy.
Okay.
He or him. Yes.
Yeah, okay, Kwa, I see your face now. So can you, okay, now my question is, I'm going back to the screen. How should accountants behave to ensure they follow this advice? So what advice is this? We are told at all times to maintain a posture of enlightened self-interest. So your answer is have ownership and integrity towards your job and the company. Okay. So this one, okay, your answer is, okay, you do well in your job and then you feel motivated. Okay. So this one is, don't you think it is more towards self-interest?
I'm still finding a better way to phrase it in balanced manner. Yeah,
Okay,
because
so
like I think I'm
I'm
missing out
waiting.
the.
I'm waiting to the answer because when I read this answer, it seems to me like okay, my motivation is for myself. My motivation is for myself. Okay, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong. I want to do my job well, and I want to, you know, get what I'm supposed to get, my rewards, my salary, my bonus, etc., etc., etc. But now we need to reconcile. Okay, there is self-interest, public interest. So we need to strike the balance. This is what they're telling. We need to strike a balance. Okay, now if I'm using your example here, okay, if one of your office mate, co-workers tells to you, hey, you know our company, last year they made so much money and they didn't give us any increment or any bonus. Huh? Hey, why don't we have we know some of their secrets. We know some of their trade secrets. Why don't we share with this other company? Why don't we share with this other company? I'm sure they'll be happy with this information that we're giving to them. I got a friend who's working in this other company. We give them, we tell them, these are the secrets of this company. That's why this company is successful. You're not supposed to share this with others, but you say, okay, since the company is not treating us well, okay, they make money last year, they make good profit. No, for us, no increment, no dividend, no bonus, nothing. So why not we go and share this information with the other company, and they will give us something. So you get what I'm trying to say or not?
Yes, sir.
So this is where the conflict comes in. Okay, your answer is looking at purely from your self-interest aspect. So now I'm telling you a scenario where one of your office mates approaches you and says, okay, I have this idea. Okay, why not we take this information, some of this sensitive information, which is very confidential, share with other company. They will reward us for giving this confidential information about our trade secret. So what are you going to do in this scenario? What are you going to do? Maybe okay lah. In your case, based on your answer, you are very motivated. You are happy. You got no issue. But let's say you are not happy. You are working, but you feel you are not being appreciated. Every day work long hours, work overtime, no payment for overtime. Weekend also work. Public holiday also work. So, will you accept this offer from your office mate, your colleague, who suggests to you that why not we share this secret with this other company? They will be happy to get this information, trade secrets. So this is where the dilemma comes. Okay, so I want you to think along those lines. Okay, and then answer how you should apply this enlightened self-interest. Okay, enlightened self-interest, I want to repeat, is what they call a win-win situation. You win, your majikan also win. Okay, for those who are not Malaysian, I think all Malaysian, right? Majikan means employer. Okay, employer. Okay, so think along those lines. Okay, it's already coming to half an hour. I think I really have to move on. Okay, so now I'm moving to the next question. Okay, question number 4. Accountants, unless there are any comments anybody has. Oh, okay, let me see this one. Te Ruan. Can I see you? Can I see who you are? Te Ruan. Can you show your the one? Okay, never mind. I just want to know who you are. Okay. Can you just show your face at least? Okay, your answer is okay. All right. I have no issue with this answer. Advise the client that it's illegal to do so, but help him or her to review the taxes to ensure that it's free of error. Okay. Okay. Correct. So this is what we call tax advice. Okay, tax advice. I don't know how many of you have done tax before, or you are doing tax this semester. There's two things in taxation. One is called tax avoidance. Tax avoidance is legal. Tax evasion is illegal. Okay, keep in mind. Tax avoidance is legal. So like what she said, review and make sure there's no error, and look at where we can get some tax benefit to reduce the tax liability. So that is legal. What is not legal is tax evasion, where you avoid or try to avoid paying taxes. That is illegal. Okay. Now, is donation or volunteer a valid example? Okay. Okay. So by giving donations or volunteering, okay, you serve the public. Okay. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay. So meaning that by giving donation and volunteering your services for free, okay, so this is, and of course at the same time you highlight your majikan or employer's name. Okay, so this is what we call win-win, a win-win scenario. You as an employee win also, the company also gets a publicity, a good publicity. Okay, so this is what we call enlightened self-interest. Enlightened self-interest, win-win scenario. Okay, company integrating CSR. So company also must not be looking solely at the bottom line, solely focusing on the profit. They also need to look at how they can be more involved in CSR or corporate social responsibility activities. Okay, no doubt there is going to be some cost involved, but by doing so, the company can show the public that we are not just solely focused on bottom line making profit. Okay, we also have the public interest at heart. So these are some examples of how we can apply this concept or this principle of enlightened self-interest, or what they sometimes refer to as win-win scenario, win-win situation. I win, my company also win, public also gets something. Public also gets some benefit. Everybody gets some benefit. Okay, this is enlightened self-interest. So you can always argue on this using this concept and giving some examples so that you showing examiner that you understand what is meant by the concept of enlightened self-interest. Okay, I think enough for that. So now we move on to the next question. Accountants are often in a position of power that can create an ethics versus profits dilemma. Okay, we have just spoken about it. In some of the examples that I just discussed with you, there is this conflict between ethics versus profits. Okay, remember I just said that if you're going to get involved in all this donation, charity, CSR, and whatever, of course there is going to be a cost. There's going to be a cost. So like it or not, it is going to eat up some of your profit. So there is this dilemma. I want to be ethical, at the same time I want to see about my profit. Okay, so this conflict, there's this conflict. So how can exposure to the 4 E's? So what are the 4 E's? Education, ethics, expertise, entrepreneurship. So how can exposure to the 4 E's help to overcome this problem? So now I will go and see whether, okay, maybe I have not shared with you, or the readings have already been shared. Huh? If you look at the week 1 readings, I've already shared it on times. If you go through the readings, week 1 readings, okay, you will get some examples there as well. Okay, so make sure you go through the week 1 readings, which I've shared on times. Okay, so now we get back to the question. All right. So what is this question all about? How can exposure to the 4Es, which is education, ethics, expertise, entrepreneurship, help to overcome this problem? So again, like I have said just now from the beginning, you need to, for example, when you talk about education, okay, if it were me, I will answer based on these 4 subheadings: education, ethics, expertise, entrepreneurship. These are the 4 subheadings. So for each of these 4 subheadings, okay, you can give an example how exposure to this, how by being exposed to education, by being exposed to ethics, expertise, and entrepreneurship can help to overcome this problem. What problem are we talking about? Ethics versus profits dilemma. So this is the dilemma that we face. Dilemma means the conflict. Are we going to look at ethics or are we going to look at profits? It doesn't have to be that way. This is what the guidance is saying. It doesn't have to be that way. We can have a win-win. We can still have a win-win. Okay. So how can exposure to these 4 E's, which is education, ethics, expertise, entrepreneurship, help to overcome this problem? So if you want to answer, my advice would be for each of those 4 subheadings, okay, talk about education, ethics, entrepreneurship, give some examples. Okay, if you can't do it today, so when you attempt to answer, also go through the readings that I have shared. You can get some examples there and then answer along those lines. So if anybody has already got some answer, you can share in the chat area for me to check and make a comment. But we have to make it fast because we have only 1 hour. So we still have another 2 questions, so only 3 more questions to discuss. So in future, if you can come prepared with the answer, probably faster. Okay, probably faster. We can go through faster. So if you got the answer already, just share in the chat area. And then since this is being recorded, if you cannot make it or if you miss something, you can always go back and look at the recording. Okay, the recording will be in the Teams. Go back to the Teams area and click on the recording. It's there. You can check. Okay, so how can exposure to the 4 E's, education, ethics, expertise, entrepreneurship, help to overcome this problem? So what problem we were talking about? The conflict between ethics versus profit. Okay, remember we just spoke about some examples like CSR and all that, donation, charity, and so on, or volunteer work. All of this is going to take some of your time, going to cost some money, maybe your money or company's money. So how are we going to balance? Okay, because it depends on the company. If the company is aware of these issues, then they might cooperate with you by giving you time off, by letting you go or during the office hour, for example, or by giving you some funds for these activities. So that's why you need to convince them how this can benefit the company, how this can help the company to raise their image, to raise their profile. So under each of these 4 subcategories, education, ethics, expertise, entrepreneurship, okay, so you can give some examples to show that because of exposure to education, this will help to overcome this problem. For example, by educating public, educating your stakeholders, okay, why it is important, educating your top management, telling them why we need to do this. You need to educate them. Sometimes they are old timers lah, you know, they just all the time thinking about profit. That is the old way of thinking. Okay, that is the old way of thinking. Especially now during this COVID-19, when people have lost their job, they've lost their livelihoods, many people have lost their lives. So if this company is a socially responsible company, there are many things they can do, okay, to show that they are not just looking at profit only. They are also an ethical company. Ethical company. Okay, so you can think about this and give some examples. Okay, like I said, if you just cut and paste from the lecture slides, of course you won't be wrong, but you cannot expect to get the good marks. Okay, let me tell you upfront, in our very first tutorial, you need to give examples. So what you can do is to all the readings that I'm sharing or that I will be sharing, make an effort to read it and go through it. If you can't understand, that is why we have a tutorial class. You're supposed to bring all these things to the class for discussion. Okay, I cannot chase all of you because there are about 70 people taking this module. 70. Okay, so how you understand? Okay, so I'll move on to the next question. It's already 10:40. Next question. What is a profession? Of course, you can find the answer, all the answers here in the 10 lecture slides. Okay, so if you just, like I say, you just cut and paste, you might just, of course, you won't fail because the answer is not wrong, but you will not get a best good marks. If you're aiming for an A or A minus, you need to do more than that. So what is the profession? What is the profession? So what is the profession? Meaning you need to define. You need to define the term profession. What is a profession? Okay, so this one is straightforward, cut and paste from the lecture slides. So I don't want to waste too much time. What is the profession? Okay, we have already seen that in the last week's lecture. Just a definition only. The second part, what are the key attributes of a profession? If I recall, there were 8. So can somebody or anybody list the 8 in the chat area for us to quickly go through? I see some people coming in so late. Okay. No, if you go to the lecture slides, go back. I think lecture slide I've already uploaded on time. So I think on the weekend I did it. You can see there are 8 attributes. 8 attributes. Okay. So basically we need to talk about those 8 attributes. What are the key attributes? What are the key attributes? Yeah, no, I've already gone through this in last week's lecture, but just for revision, what are the 8 attributes that we discussed in last week's lecture? Okay, it's on lecture slide number 9. Okay, lecture slide number 9. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, it's already in the slides. Okay, refer to lecture slide number 9. Okay, refer to lecture slide number 9. Okay, 8 of them. Systematic body. Okay, there are 8 of them. Okay, so this one is straightforward cut and paste. Okay, so for doing this you won't get much marks. Okay, because it's just straightforward cut and paste, but you need to elaborate. You need to elaborate. Yeah, this is a module for paper. Okay, ECG is module for paper, so it's not like a what they call a lower level module. Lower level module, you can just vomit back the answer from the slide. Now here at this level, module SEM 4, okay, SEM 4, you're expected to give answer with example and elaboration. Okay, so we have 8 attributes. Okay, the first one is systematic body of theory and knowledge. I don't want to go through it. Okay, I've already gone through in the lecture. So now the second part of the question. Okay, the second part of the question is, okay, what is a profession? This is straightforward. Definition you can take from the slide, so I don't want to spend time on this. So what are the key attributes? There are 8 attributes. Okay, basically there are 8. I just showed you the lecture slide, and some of the students have already posted in the chat area. Okay, 8 attributes. Okay, so you can check the answer in the chat area. Attributes have been discussed. 8 attributes. So define the term professionals. Again, this is from the slides. Okay, profession. So the people who practice the profession are the professionals. So the people who practice the profession are the professionals. So the profession and professionals are related. Okay, what is the profession? Accountancy. Professionals are accountants. What is the profession? Medicine. Professionals, doctors. What is the profession? Law. Who are the professionals? Solicitor, barrister, lawyer. Okay, so the people who practice are the professionals. So this is quite straightforward. Huh? So now by this criteria, do accountants qualify to be called professional? This is where you need to give your input. So if you get this type of question in the exam or in the test or in any assignment, make sure you state your answer clearly. Yes, they are. Then you give your justification. Why they qualify. You don't just say, oh, these are the 8 attributes. These are the 8 attributes. Take cut and paste straight from the slide. Okay, since accountants fulfill these 8 criteria, therefore they are professional. You must go beyond that. Like I said, it depends. If you are just aiming to pass with a C or C+, okay, then it's different matter lah. Okay, so if you are aiming to get a good grade, like I said, you need to elaborate. You need to give example. Okay, that's why we have a difference. It's not everybody scoring A or everybody scoring B, C, C+, or whatever. So this is where the distinction is coming. Some people, they just throw back the answer from the slide. Some people do more than that. Elaborate, give example. So I'm letting you know this is the way the what you call assessment is made. Okay. So just don't throw back the answer from the slides. Elaborate, give examples. Okay. So as I mentioned just now, when they ask a question like this, do accountants qualify to be called professional? You don't sit on the fence. Don't say no comment. No comment means no mark. You have to say yes or no. You might disagree. You have a right to disagree, but you must give your explanation. Okay, I hope I've made it clear. Okay, I hope I made it clear. So I want to move to the next one. We have only got 10 minutes. Differentiate between the traditional view and the market control view. Okay, so again, this is direct from the slides. Okay, direct from the slides. You can refer to your slides, and just for this, to make things faster, can somebody put the answer in the chat area? Quickly put the answer in the chat area. Take it direct from the slides. Okay. Okay, so on slide 11. The traditional view sees the accounting profession as demonstrating attributes that are focused on serving society. This is the ideal view. This is the ideal view. This is the traditional view, ideal view. Okay. The other view, they call the market control view, suggests that accountants are less concerned with the broader public interest than with their own career. So meaning that market control view says the accountants are taking self-interest perspective. Self-interest perspective, meaning they're thinking about themselves first. Basically, that's what the market control view says. They are thinking about themselves first. So profession has created a monopoly. A monopoly meaning only members of this profession can work in this area. Now in Malaysia, as I've explained in the first lecture, in order to practice as an accountant, you must be registered with MIA. You must be registered with MIA. It does not matter where you qualify from. You may qualify from Australia, New Zealand, Canada, UK, Ireland, wherever, Scotland, wherever. You still need to register with the MIA in order to call yourself an accountant. Please be clear. So this is like a monopoly. It's like our club. You don't qualify, you cannot join this club. If you don't qualify, you cannot join this club. If you cannot join this club, then you cannot offer this service to the public. So that is the reason why I guess most of you in this class sign up to do AF, accounting and finance, because you have some idea to do something in accounting, whether you're working for someone, working for yourself, or whatever. Okay, but keep in mind you need to register with MIA. You need to register with MIA if you want to practice as an accountant. If, for example, you're not interested to practice as an accountant, then it does not matter. Okay, it does not matter. So we have two views. One is the traditional view, focus on serving society, and the other is the market control view, which says that basically we are just concerned about ourselves only, self-interest. Okay, self-interest means we are only concerned about ourselves. Okay, so are there any questions so far? I think we are coming to the end. That's one more. I think there's so many more questions left. Okay, this is the lecture slide. Okay, we finished question 6. Now coming to the last question. So for that one, I want you all to answer. I don't want to give the answer. So quickly put your answer in the chat area. Quickly put your answer in the chat area. I'm now talking about question 7. Okay, I repeat the question. Name the body tasked with the registration and oversight of the accounting profession in Malaysia, and name the body tasked with setting accounting and auditing standards in Malaysia. So you can Google to get this answer. Just Google and get the answer and post it in the chat area. Okay, I have two answers here. Okay. The answer by Yap Shinwei is correct. Okay. The answer by Yap Shinwei is correct. Okay, so you can do the attendance. I've shared the code in the chat area. Quickly do it before the screen shuts down. I don't really want to do it manually, okay? Because then every time I do it manually, the office will pick it up and they will ask us to explain why the student didn't turn up. So please make sure you take attendance on camps. So basically we are done. Are there any questions you have? Are there any questions? If not, then I will end because after this I have the lecture.